Carnage Captured, a true story. I froze with shock. That was his intent. Strong, confusing emotions raging. I was 16, the photos real. An RUC album, tantalising, prohibited, stamped not for civilian eyes. I turned another page of sickening. 2 pensioners, man and wife, grotesque against their farmhouse wall, their brains painting their surroundings. Those faces imprinted forever, fear petrified in death. Next, Oxford Street, Belfast. This was worse. There were no faces. A macabre shoveled up remains of ordinary people on a stretcher, filled to capacity with blood-drenched lumps of meat, intestines, bones, a heart. Mere minutes before, it had been beating. At the very end of the stretcher, a single foot. An expression of historic hurt orchestrated by those freedom fighters, the Provisional IRA. I was in a cop's house, a detective, drinking beer underage, a young hood. He was supposed to be returning me to a reform school for juvenile delinquents, his blind eye turned to the inconsequential. He was on a self-appointed mission, avert me from joining the real bad boys, the loyalist paramilitaries. He knew I was on the brink. Although a catalogue of Republican atrocities, he assured me the loyalist slaughter book was cut from the same cloth. I looked at countless photographs of real people recently alive, some a few short miles from where we were sitting, all victims of the perpetual carnage. My perspective altered beyond the possibility of return. I concretely vowed to never join those savages. Decade upon decade of nightmares fueled by unthinkable images, waking up sweating, screaming, sometimes crying, ensured I kept my word. Close on 50 years have passed. Despite the ceasefire, the division persists, the hatred, a precious heirloom handed down from generation to generation. The shootings and killings continue, just not as many. Now, the killers on both sides collaborate, trading death by violence for death by drugs, profiting from peddling misery to their own communities. The East City focus is no longer for God and Ulster, but control, status, and hard cash. The violence now reserved for those who dare compete. In the early Troubles, most were soldiers fighting for the cause. Time and power, greed and change disillusioned them and replaced them with gangsters. You can see the unemployed commanders at the bottom of the Woodstock, the Lower Falls, the Shankill, Poleglass, driving their Range Rovers and Bentleys.